That's how you learn to navigate the world, is not by people that are 30 years older than you. You need that because you need the guidance. You need, people wiser. Parents are important, obviously. But you also need to make mistakes with people. Like, you got to go be idiots together. And you have those memories, in my opinion.
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Doogles, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
Welcome to Skippy and Doogles Talk Investing, y'all. Excited for this episode. You know what's been happening, Skippy? People have started to take some notice on the Instagrams. It's been cool to see people taking notice on the Instagrams. We've got the clips on the Instagrams. You can check it out. Little pieces of each episode. At Skippy Doogles is the handle if you're on Instagram. Love seeing people check it out.
That's great, because I don't use Instagram. That's
absolutely
awesome.
You don't.
I just make money off everyone that uses Instagram, but what can I say?
There you go. Everyone's got their role. And that is yours.
When we were in Africa last month, we were like everyone everywhere was like, what's your WhatsApp? Like, give me your WhatsApp. And I was like, making money.
Yeah, there you go. I love that you're asking me. I love it.
Yeah. Let me tell you about my WhatsApp. I made 1/1000th of a cent from that conversation.
Skippy and I both just got back from some longer term travels. You left a little bit before we did. Mm-hmm. You got back a little bit before. I just got back less than 10 hours ago to this United States of America here. I hit up Spain for a bit, hit up a little Ireland. Where'd you go?
Same and Africa. So good country.
We can't stay away from each other. We weren't even together, but we had to be close enough to feel the essence.
Close enough.
Exactly.
You picked well. What can I say?
That's right. Today we got 3 topics for you. We're going to start this puppy off by talking about the business of youth sports. Huge industry. We discussed that. Then venture over to this recent interview, and you're going to talk about a book between Meb Faber and Victor Haghani, and then wrap things up with our boy, Derek Thompson, and a piece he wrote recently on his blog. This one was called The Death of Partying. And he's written about this a whole heap, about socialization, the lack of it, etc. This was like a nice current thought process, given that I've been researching this for years type of piece. So we're going to hit on that. 3 topics for the day. Youth sports. I've been feeling this for a while. We have a son, 11 years old, going to turn 12 this fall. Big into soccer. And we see and we feel the time, the money that's spent on this, and the binary nature of it, which we're going to discuss a little bit here. So I see this, but this piece in the New York Times about youth sports and the business of it brought some numbers to light that was helpful contextualizing for myself. I'm going to start off with a big one. The youth sports industry, according to the Aspen Institute, generates about $40 billion a year in annual revenue. $40 billion a year. About 60 million children play sports, and the average U.S. sports family spends a little bit over $1,000 on this.
Yes, for context, the domestic movie box office industry does about $9 billion a year. So just call it 4x all the movies happening in this country. It's bonkers. There's a quote from this. I'm just hopping right in. I'm fired up about this.
Please do.
A quote, roughly 2 in 10 youth sports parents think their child has the ability to play Division I sports.
Yep.
And 1 in 10 thinks that his or her child could reach the professional ranks or the Olympics. More power to you. I love sports as much as anyone in the world. For my early years of life, I was only the sports guy. I am a huge sports fan. Always will be. I spend my money on sports as entertainment. I consume sports on TV.
You do.
This is great. I find this whole thing disgusting. And the article is really about some private equity folks, surprise, surprise, starting to buy up these sports facilities. There's baseball set up, I think, 18 fields. Yeah, what?
Can we not get off the point that you are so disgusted about?
Yeah, all right.
Let's stick on it for a moment. Because both of those are aggressive. They remind me of the over half of, it's like 70% of people think they're above average drivers or something like that. Right, we go, okay, it's not possible. It's not possible. If you have 20% of folks that are like, my kid can go D1. So that's You got 10% that believe their kids can be professionals. Also Even take the difference between those two. So half are going to go pro. Like half of the D1 are going to go pro. None of it makes sense. And I know that's not the way they're thinking about it. They're thinking more like emotionally, it's easy. I get that. But looking at those numbers, I agree with you. It made me go, wow, they've lost track of what's important.
No, this is my point, though. This is why it's so relevant. So this is why it's a great investment, Doogles, because you have these parents with completely irrational expectations because they love their kids. This is why it feels exploitive to me. So is this a good investment? It might be. I might talk to you in a little bit about how I own some youth sports franchise, and it would be a fraction of it, obviously. But I just pulled up the numbers here, okay? Roughly 2% of high school athletes go on to play at the Division I level, so they're only off by a factor of 10. And the more desirable sports, like basketball, 0.6% of high school basketball players, D1. Football, 2.5% of high school football players move on to D1. Think of all the kids that we're talking like 10-year-olds here in a lot of cases. Yeah. Think of all the kids that play sports at 10 that don't even make it to play in high school.
Yeah. Middle school.
So many people quit. And so many people quit because of bad experiences that might happen because of this business apparatus that makes $40 billion a year.
And because you're a kid. Like, you just might like something different when you're 12. You know? But I do agree, it's a grinder. When there's this much money going into something, you can only imagine the amount of pressure that is then felt by kids too. It's a lot. It's got to be a lot. Okay, now you can go to the private equity side of it. Well, we can jump there now. I just want to stick on that.
Real time, this is just this week from Family Friends, talking about AAU events charging $20 for parking and $40 for entry per family member. So say you have a family of 4 and say 3 other people want to go in. You're at $120 to get in the door, plus 20 in parking. That's $140, plus whatever you've paid for travel to be halfway across the country to do this, et cetera, to watch your 12-year-old play basketball for 30 minutes.
And they're awful, probably, really. Like, if you need where you're saying D1 professional, I'm going to show up and be like dumpster fire. So just so we can get objective view on this.
All right. Yeah, the private equity side, anyone that listens to the show knows how this goes. Like, so there's some money to be made. They highlight the owner of the Washington Commanders football team. There's other people involved. It's the Apollos and Blackstones and whoever. So they mentioned this baseball facility originally built by Calvin Ripken in Baltimore. This thing sounds amazing. There's 18 baseball stadiums, I believe. And
did you say Calvin?
Each of them is shaped after. Did I say Calvin? I meant Cal, obviously.
Well, I mean, I just didn't know that you were like, you and he had a
first name basis. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
That's an embarrassing error. Oh, well. So each of these stadiums is shaped as a replica to a real major league stadium. So you have like Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park with the green wall. Like, it sounds amazing. But then so not only does your team pay a ridiculous amount to play there, they offer you a hotel overlooking the Baltimore baseball stadium, Camden Yards, and that's only $300 a night. Like, it just seems, am I just in old man phase here? Like, this doesn't seem fair.
You're not just that, but yes, you are in that phase. I'm going to throw out one other thing and then tie it in here. There was something else they talked about, which I completely believe in this. They said this is more about money and opportunity than talent and hard work when you start to look at the breakdown of the teams. Researchers determined that 70% of 10th grade high school students from families with high socioeconomic status played a high school sport, while only 43% of 10th graders from low socioeconomic status. Makes sense when you think about it, both from there's the money aspect and the time. Because you have to be able to afford the high cost of these things, and it's the initial base cost to get in. Then they start tacking on, you talked about parking, start tacking on other stuff to it. So that's the cost. Then you have to have the time for like, oh, we're going to have practice at 4:00 on Tuesday this week.
It's always right? At 4:00 on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's always. So I'll give you a personal anecdote about this. You've heard this before, but I'm going to give it out for the masses. About a year ago, last June, my son goes to the Real Madrid soccer camp locally. They do these all over the world, and they have this, I don't know, call it policy, whatever. Basically what happens is you have 50 or so kids that go to this camp, and they say if you're in the top 5 to 10, they offer for you an invitation, as it were, an opportunity for you to go out to Madrid and play with Real Madrid out there.
Wait, that's free, right? They're going to cover room, board, everything. They're going to cover it for you, right?
Precisely. So you get to come, and they invite, it's all the best from all around the world. You get to come to the soccer camp. Okay? So we go, cool. Our son gets an invitation. He's excited. We're like, cool. We go to them and say, okay, how much is this? Crickets. They're sending us information about the camp, but crickets on the price. So then they come back and they say, you have to put down a $600 deposit to be able to go. And we're like, okay, cool. What's the total? Crickets. Then we say, okay, let's do reasonable math. If it's $600, maybe the camp is like $1,500. And that's more than we would typically want to spend, but it's a cool opportunity for him. And we can figure out the rest of it. Put down the $600 deposit. Then they come out.
The total cost of this.
Don't know the total cost. All we have is our assumption. So then that's when they come out with the total cost. So then they come out and they say, okay, so the entire thing is actually going to be a little over $2,600 for each of you. So they're charging me, they're charging my wife, and they're charging our son.
No.
Basically the same amount of money. Yeah. So it's like $8,000.
Do you hop in the soccer drills? Like, do you get some wrong?
No. Yeah. Well, we sent them the emails along those lines. We're like, we're trying to figure out any justification for this because I'm assuming that it makes sense. Like, I'm assuming I'm not getting it, but that it makes sense. So we can't figure it out. And they're like, the price is the price. So I go, what the heck? So then here's the last moment for my wife and I. We go, all right. The awesomeness of this is you get to go to this soccer camp at Real Madrid. You have the best of the best that are coming. It's probably one of the better soccer camps you'll go to. And then we said, okay, let's check that logic. Is it all the best? Or is it the people that could afford to pay $8,000 plus airfare plus, that's not the best?
Probably the latter. Yep, it's probably the latter.
Yeah. So I mentioned, right, we were in Spain, went to the Real Madrid camp. However, not that one. I went down to the black web and determined if you just go to the Real Madrid camp, it's $300. So we still did our trip to Spain, right? But he went to this Real Madrid camp for $300.
It's probably like the same exact teachers.
Yeah. Like, what? But that's exactly to this point. So long anecdote. But the bigger point was, as they state here, it's actually not about talent and hard work solely. It's about money and opportunity, because the people that can participate in these things, like the IMG Academy they mentioned of $85,000 a year, the people that can participate are not the best of the best. If you are the ultimate best of the best, they'll subsidize the crap out of you, I'm sure. But the people that are on that cusp, they'd be like, oh, Johnny think he gonna be D1? Okay, and his parents got money? All right. We'll invite Johnny.
I now have, so for those who don't know what the IMG Academy is, it's basically this luxury resort that trains D1 athletes, and kids will leave, I don't know, as early as 14 or 15 to attend high school at IMG Academy.
Yep.
And have all the best amenities and best coaches. If you follow college football recruiting, you know of IMG because they place their entire team, and sometimes their backups with elite programs, right?
Yep.
It's a whole thing. But I'm fairly familiar with IMG through personal experiences. I had a tennis coach who played at IMG and then went to Purdue.
Look at you.
And then I know some folks in the investment crowd that are well off that have kids that play at IMG, and it might be the latter, right? Where it's like they're on the cusp, but the parents have the money and it's no issue.
Those people, their kids are great. If you're listening to this and you're a friend of Skippy.
By the way, text you later, but your kids are great. That actually makes more sense to me than the 12-year-old AAU tournament shelling out, I don't know, 5 trips a year that cost you $5K, and then the ridiculous parking and everything else. Am I completely crazy to think what's being exploited here from a financial perspective is parents' irrationality in judging their child's abilities, and I would be in that camp with everyone else, so I'm not throwing shade there, and that there's an easy way to make money off that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So this is a great business model. It will continue to be a great business model in 100 years because parents are always going to love their kids.
So long as So long as that disposable income exists there.
I mean, this is the US of A, Doogles. We're gonna spend it even if we don't have it. It doesn't really matter. We're gonna spend it. By the way, and the numbers on high school to professional, 0.03% of high school basketball players go on to professional. I mean,
great.
The 10% of parents that think their kids are going to play in the pros, no, does not exist. Does not compute.
No.
Is your kid like 6'11" with a crazy vertical and incredible ball handling? Let's talk. If it's not that, not happening.
I want to wrap up this section with this. Unrivaled Sports, which is the organization that was started by the Apollo and Blackstone folks that you mentioned before. Unrivaled Sports says that it was mindful of the cost of its offering. Okay. I actually think that that's fully true. I looked up the definition of mindful. It's conscious or aware of something. I completely agree that the folks at Apollo and Blackstone are aware of what the cost of their offerings are.
By the way, the main figure we're talking about is Josh Harris, founder of Apollo Global and owner of the Washington Commanders. But there's other people mentioned.
Yes.
I don't know that I blame him or people in his shoes.
No, it's probably a great business. How do you not get into this? It's just, if money is the goal, which for Apollo, the Apollos of the world, I mean, just like that is their business, is money. This feels like something that makes a lot of sense for them to get into. It's just really sucky looking at it from the standpoint of the kids that I see that are just around, and this is just a small glimpse. It's just really sucky for a lot of kids that don't have the same opportunities because the prices keep getting raised higher and higher. And some kids just like, you just can't, like, I just can't do that. It's not about how much do I love my kid, how much do I think that they deserve the best. It's not about their talent level. It's just like, I cannot afford to pay that amount of money. And that's the reason why it's not happening. And the prices will just get higher. And that sucks. So, well, you know that's not Josh Harris's, reason d'etre, I guess.
What I think is even crazier, and I might be projecting because we run in this crowd, as do you, is there's so much travel built in to your average, I'll say, middle schooler's schedule between vacations and like travel sports that it feels like there's significantly less time to get together in the neighborhood and kick the soccer ball around.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this a little bit when we go into Derek Thompson.
Go there. You want to go straight to Derek Thompson?
We can. I mean, we have a transition now. Okay. So Derek Thompson, if people have not followed him, just awesome writer, I think, in my opinion. Awesome writer. And if you haven't followed him, you probably have not read a bunch of the stuff that he's done, especially in the Atlantic, around loneliness, how people are becoming less social over time. And he's also written about drinking alcohol and the trends that exist there. This piece, I wouldn't say it summarizes necessarily a lot of his work, but it touches on elements of what he's written about before with his current research that he has access to and his current level of thought. And I think it is beautiful. Okay. Let me touch on some ish and just hop on in. So the death of partying, and this one is on his blog. It is derekthompson.org. The death of partying in the USA and why it matters. That's the title. One of the things that he mentions, just to show the change that's happened here around partying, and he touches on the periphery of quote-unquote partying as well. He goes into the tables of the American Time Use Survey, which is often cited in many, many different kinds of things. They basically just survey a whole bunch of Americans and say, like, how do you spend your time? From sleeping to socializing, etc. See how people spend their time. The fact that just 4.1% of Americans said they attended or hosted a party or ceremony on a typical weekend or holiday in 2023. So what this means, I like that he frames it this way. 1 in 25 U.S. households had plans to attend a social event. That is a low number. And the change of this, change is also the way to look at this. Between 2003 and 2024, the amount of time that Americans spent attending or hosting a social event declined by 50% over that 20-year period. He breaks it down by ages. I'm going to skip it for now because I don't think that level of detail is necessary for this conversation. But 50% was a decline over that 20-year period.
It's drastic.
Very.
What's interesting here is that all his writing assumes the previous baseline is like ideal. And in investing, that's not always the case. You might have a stock that trades for $300 that was incredibly overvalued, comes down to 150, and people assume the baseline is 300, but it's not. In this case, what's amazing is how stable this is historically. Like from 1980 to 2005, like the numbers are always the same, drastically different, 50% more than today in most cases. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption, is that, like, I'll give you one stat here. Boys in 1985, basically 85% of boys would go out with friends. This is 12th graders, 2 or more times a week. 85% of boys that were in 12th grade would go out with friends 2 or more times a week. Today, it's like 58%. The good news is there's a slight rebound from, say, a few years ago, it appears. These stats, he breaks it down in like 10 different ways, and he's done this, to your point, 4 years. It's always amazing how different the world appears today.
And to tie the last piece that we were talking about in the sports conversation with this and why we made that transition was there's a component of this where he discusses the amount of time that parents are spending in childcare just with their children, if you could just think about it that way. And that has jumped dramatically since the mid-90s. To give a couple numbers, in 1995-ish, you had, for mothers, they were spending around 12 hours per week, and fathers are spending around 4 hours per week. We can discuss that on a different podcast. But now the mothers' number has gone from about 12 hours to, on the college-educated front, over 20 hours, and on the less than college-educated to like 16 hours. In both cases, you're talking about, let's call it a 50 to 100% increase in hours per week spent with their children. And part of what he says is that a component of that is them spending the time shuttling, being the limo service, as he mentions, for their kids, and overscheduling their kids and taking their kids to so many different things. That's where the time is being spent, which creates less opportunity for kids to then be spending other time with their friends. He's not saying that that is the sole reason. It's just one of the elements that he mentions.
It's pretty straightforward, though. You know what happens when they go to the basketball camp 3 states away? They don't hang out with their friends in the neighborhood.
You got to make friends there.
When they don't go to the basketball camp 3 states away, they get bored to death at home. Now, this is different with screens, but what happened in the 80s is you got bored to death at home, you went outside. You found someone to play basketball with at the local park, right? I don't know if any of these things are good or bad. You're going to have to ask someone smarter than me if parents spending that much more time with their kids is ultimately a good thing. There's some good aspects to it. But in totality, I just find this fascinating. And it doesn't seem great. Like, the fact that kids spend less time with other kids doesn't seem great to me.
I think it's bad. I don't know the numbers that are good or bad. To even your point, what is the right number of hours? I don't know. But the fact of kids spending less time with other kids, that I believe is bad. We are social creatures and we learn from each other. Like, that's how you learn to navigate the world, is not by people that are 30 years older than you. You need that because you need the guidance. You need, people wiser. Parents are important, obviously. But you also need to make mistakes with people. Like, you got to go be idiots together. And you have those memories, my opinion. You want to move on to the last topic? Or anything else you want to hit on?
Yes, I was just wasn't sure if there's anything else you want to hit here. If you subscribe to the Substack, just at least check out the graphs on Monday. And if you've never heard of Derek Thompson, or his writing on this sort of stuff, check it out. It's really good.
You have. So go check out more. All right.
Okay. I discovered a book this week that I'd never heard of, which is rare in the investing circles, and I really liked it. So there's a podcast with Victor Haghani. I said that wrong. Close enough. And the podcast is with Victor and Meb Faber, talking about his recent book. His recent book is called The Missing Billionaires, and his co-author there is James White. The premise of this book, Doogles, I absolutely love. I was taken with it the first time I heard it. So Cornelius Vanderbilt in the late 1800s died and left his son $100 million, which is the greatest sum on earth given to any one individual at that time. And in today's dollars, some astronomically large. Sorry, I don't remember the exact amount. But basically what it means is that every heir in the Vanderbilt family, if they would have been smart about investing and spending their money today in 2025 should be at least a billionaire. Guess how many of them are?
0.
Absolutely 0.
Wow.
The book talks about that premise, what it means, how you can do it differently, especially with today's
that's cool.
technology. I am halfway through the book. I think it's really good, but I know you want to talk about the podcast, so I'll let you give us the.
Well, you can talk. Do you want to say anything else about the book before we shift in there?
It's all the same premise. No, I think that question is how to not squander a massive fortune is the theme that runs throughout the book, and I'd leave it at that.
Which is, you got to get the fortune. Once you have it, you got to keep it, which is hard. Both those things can be difficult, right? Like Michelle Pfeiffer said in Dangerous Minds, anyone can get an A. Keeping the A is what's hard. Michelle Pfeiffer knows white gold, baby.
She did not say that. She did not say that.
Something like that. Okay. All right, there are a few topics that I highlighted in listening to this podcast. It came out recently, the Meb Faber show. You can go check it out. It's a pretty recent episode. The first one I'm going to bring up is he talks about the what decision versus the how much decision. Most people spend their time, their mindfulness, thinking about what do I invest in? Do I go Bitcoin or NVIDIA or treasury bills or art, whatever? What do I invest in?
Why are you listing nothing but horrible investments?
And he says the point he brings up is the question that doesn't get talked about enough is the how much. Yeah, let's say that's your portfolio or part of it. It's, are you putting 90% in Bitcoin and 4% in NVIDIA? Or like with the breakdown, the allocation is what's really important. And one of the things he mentions is he goes, you can have a portfolio of amazing assets with the wrong allocation and go bankrupt. And you can have a portfolio with terrible investments, but the right allocation, at least you can stick around. Maybe not thriving, but you can at least be alive.
This goes back to our listener mail from a few weeks back relating to the crypto run-up.
Yep.
To take a relatively small sum of money that went to a value of over $1 million and then came all the way back down. I mean, the immediate concern for me was diversification. And this is where I think this is another point that I really gravitated to in his interview and his book as well. It's so much more fun. You and I do this all day to talk about what stock to buy rather than how much money to allocate to that stock or that ETF.
Yep.
And basically how not to go bust. Gosh, this is a strong point. So I think he's right on this. It's a pretty controversial take. He also does a great job documenting how much of financial media is spent on the what to buy and not the how much decision. And it's like 99%. In the foreword of the book, there's this great breakdown where the guy is making that same point and he lists like 20 really famous financial books that contradict each other. It'll be like Rich Dad, Poor Dad tells you to do this, and then the other book tells you to do the exact opposite.
Yep.
Stocks for the Long Run by Peter Lynch tells you to buy companies that you use. And then Richard Schiller tells you that you should never buy it. It's a hilarious list that I had never seen before of someone being just like, if this is your guide, you're completely hopeless because there's so much contradictory information out there. And those are like the best, the most recommended financial novels.
One of the things that's really important in there that we discuss a lot here is that they're not telling you to do anything.
Some of them are. They shouldn't be.
Well, sorry, that's right. I probably phrased that the wrong way. You should not be listening to them as if they are telling you to do anything. They are giving broad, generalized advice, not thinking about your own psychology, your own situation, etc. So that's the thing, is that you can have contradictory advice, but even as we were discussing earlier about nonsense investments, right? With like off pod, we were just talking. We're like, that investment's nonsense. Not for everybody, but for me, that would be nonsense.
Yeah.
But like for somebody else, it could be amazing. So it's not that advice, there's no advice that is just generally applicable when it gets to that level of specificity. Advice like manage your psychology is generally applicable, but that's not a specific type of investment that you would have.
Yes.
I'm going to parlay this into another thing he talked about. He discussed this hypothetical portfolio that was in a paper that I cannot remember. I didn't write it down. But he said there's this hypothetical portfolio where if over a 5-year period, for the first 4 years, the portfolio generated 30% a year. So just crushing it. And then the 5th year, portfolio loses 100%. Is that a good or bad portfolio? And what he brings up is he goes, that's actually a good portfolio. If that's 100% of your allocation, that's bad. This gets to the what decision.
Idiotic portfolio. If you have a 20% chance of going bust, it's an idiotic portfolio with 100% of your money allocated to it. It might be a good portfolio with 2% of your money allocated to it.
That's what he was saying. He goes, and what other people think about when they think about a portfolio like that is that you just let it completely compound. But he said that there's a way to look at that portfolio and the risk-adjusted nature of it and take out some of your winnings and allocate somewhere else, so that you're always maybe allocating to make up a number 2% to your portfolio, and that might be good for you to allocate that. But if in year 1 it was 2% or whatever the number is, and I'm going to get the math wrong here, sorry quants out there, but a year 4, let's say it's like 15% of your portfolio, whatever the amount is, he goes, now that then in year 5 losing 100%, that is sucky. Like that is
take
not
the money off the table and keep it at 2%.
Exactly.
But this is what I find most compelling about. Of course, he's launching a fund, and I'll let you do the research on that if you read the book. The know nothing advice, as Buffett would say, for your average investor for the past 50 years was 60-40 portfolio.
Yep.
A lot of times that was 100% U.S. stocks and 100% U.S. debt, and that was generally great advice until 2021, 2022, when both those assets were crazy overvalued. And unless you're like doing real-time analysis on the fly, you don't even know. And you're not educated enough. The typical person doesn't even care about investing enough to be like, oh, this advice that I got for the last 40 years doesn't hold true for this moment in time. Victor and team are building a portfolio that is constantly looking at valuations like you and I do and adjusting things. So you could truly go ahead.
Ooh, I'm going to pause you there, because the other topic that I want to discuss with you here is it's not value. They don't look at valuations.
No,
I know it sounds like it's mincing words.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
I know, but this is actually important, because one of the things he says in his view that assets are not over or undervalued at any given period of time. They are valued where they should be valued. But what they look at is they say, what is the expected future return based on the current level of that asset? And they then allocate based on future expected returns.
You went to Nerdland, and none of our listeners care about this. Yes. There's a very unique caveat between looking at future returns and saying that's not valuation. In my eyes, it's effectively the same thing, because how do you get a future return? You get it based on historical returns at current valuations. That's how I think of it with earnings yield. That's a fascinating one. If I used his same guidance to rebuild his same portfolio, would I do it slightly differently? Sure. But I still think this is a pretty unique product in the market. And again, I'm not here to sell a product at all. I just think you should listen to the podcast or read the book, because it's a very unique lens to look at these problems that everyone has to deal with.
Yeah. It's very nerdy. You were just calling me nerdy. The podcast is quite nerdy. So you enjoy finance.
Yeah, so is the book.
Victor is nerdy. Like, let's just come out and say it. Victor's a nerdy dude. Topics that he covers in an interesting and different way of thinking about them than I've heard, especially as of late. So I think it's worth it. We'll have that in the Substack you mentioned, skippydoogles.substack.com. We'll have that as well, so you can go and check it out. I think it's worthwhile, and I'll pick up the book since you're liking it.
Yeah, you should. There's I know the amount of people this happens to is minute, right? But I would love to see, there's a few other products like this where the goal of the ETF is some line of, hey, you made a ton of money and you don't want to have to think about going bust, buy this thing. And I think that's cool, because I'll tell you, in the 1870s when Cornelius Vanderbilt died, that did not exist. I would like to
What were the ETFs? What were the ETFs that existed back then?
Zero. I would like to think that there's some people that if they want to. I mean, another reason families go bust so quickly is because it's not really fun to be like, you know what? My great-great-grandfather was the richest man in the world. And now we don't do anything with that money. It takes away all your agency in life. And I'm not allowed to, like write my friend a check to start a company or buy any fun property or travel the world because my financial advisor says I have to hold these funds.
If you want a technical deep dive into what this looks like in real life, watch the movie Hitch.
Wait, the Will Smith movie?
Oh, yeah. Because you had Amber Valletta, I think that's her name, the character she plays, very wealthy, and her financial advisors won't let her do anything. So she has to stand up for herself.
This is outrageous. That's an outrageous. All right, let's end it there. All things Skippy Doogles, skippydoogles.com. Listener mail, skippydoogles@gmail.com. Shoot us some good stuff there. We now get lots of listener mail with people pitching to come on the show, and there's some hilariously bad stuff there, Doogles. Hilariously bad. If we want you on the show, we'll ask you to come on the show. That's just a PSA. If you want to support the show with a premium subscription, get your episodes a day early and get special content when we're breaking down new potential buys for us, you can go to skippydoogles.supercast.com. Did I miss anything?
Thank you. I think that's about it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.